Hi, everyone. It's Christine Williams with Keller Williams Elevate and a proud member of the Easy Referral Network. I am here today with Matt Sheffey of Keller Home Loans.
Hi, Christine. Thank you for having me.
You bet. So, hey, guys, I've been doing this a little over 25 years, and sometimes there's a buzzword. There's some things that are really noteworthy and of interest to talk about. And one of the things that I notice a number of my clients are concerned about is interest rates. So, Matt, out of curiosity, what are the current interest rates?
Give or take, they're high sixes, low sevens, depending on profile and whatnot. But give or take around there.
Painfully average, like me. I'm a 5'4" American woman. Painfully average. So in the 25 years that I've been doing this, I will say that those interest rates that Matt just shared are pretty average. And the reason that I wanted to bring Matt on is to talk about a couple of ways that you can take average interest rate payments and make them into mortgage hacks. So I asked Matt if we could talk about 3 different types of mortgage hacks that we both find are pretty helpful in recommending to our clients. So Matt, what's the first mortgage hack that you want to share with us?
The first one I want to go over is early payoff of the mortgage. There's a few different ways that you can utilize payment strategies to save a ton of interest and pay your house off earlier without it really affecting you financially.
Okay. So for purposes of our conversation today, Matt, what is the criteria that you've put with this loan? I think you said a $250,000 loan.
Right. Yeah. So $250,000 loan amount is what I used. That's give or take around the average loan amount for our area here. I used a 6.5% interest rate, and I'm going to go based off that. So that's what we're going to use.
Okay. And those seem to jive with the purchase prices here in the greater Cleveland area on average. So, okay. So let's dig into, tell me about an early payoff.
So early payoff is, there's a few different ways that you can utilize it and that you can do it. So one of the ways is to pay a little bit extra every single month on the mortgage, or making a one-time payment, or, kind of using a combination of both. So we're going to go over all of them right now.
Okay. So if you are looking at doing an early payoff, as Matt has suggested, sometimes when we're looking at tax return time, that might be a prime time to take. So based on the terms that you shared, $250,000 loan amount, 6.25% interest, the monthly payment, not including escrow. So not
Correct.
Including insurance, not including taxes.
Yes.
Okay. So the monthly payment would be?
Monthly payment would be $1,580 a month.
Okay. So let's say, for instance, you get your tax return and you're like, hey, I would like to put $1,580.
Actually, I'm sorry, $1,560.
$1,560. Okay, so you're going to put $1,560 down on the principal when you get your tax return, and then use the rest of it however you like. So that's one option. You can do one lump sum payment. Another way is to take $1,560, divide it by 12, add that each month.
Correct.
Okay, so if you were to do the early payoff by doing one extra payment a year.
Mm-hmm. So one extra payment a year, if you just took, instead of making 12 payments, you make 13 payments, you would actually pay the house off 6 years faster. So 24 years versus 30. And you would save $73,000 in interest. It's a lot of money.
Boom diggity.
And that's just one payment a year.
Wow. So $73,000. So let's just imagine if you were to take the money saved, in theory, you could take that money and maybe put it into investments. Mm-hmm. You could save that money, or the money saved could be a down payment on a retirement home.
Yeah.
The money saved could be investments into maybe a Roth IRA. So these are all ways that you could really save money and benefit yourself somehow or another just by making that one extra principal payment per month. This whole conversation is going to be based on making a principal payment, not including escrow and taxes. So kind of keep that in mind when we're having this conversation. So 6 years earlier, $73,000 more saved.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we have another one. So what is another mortgage hack that you like to talk to your clients about?
So another one is if you make bi-weekly payments. So bi-weekly payments means you make a payment every 2 weeks instead of once a month. So you would, in a sense, make 26 payments a year because you'd be making them every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And what that would do is that would do the same thing as making one extra payment a year as far as the time it would be paid off. It would still pay off in 24 years versus 30. However, you would save an additional $5,000 just by the way that it's amortized and the amortization of the loan and, you know, making the payments in between. So you'd save around $78,000 versus $73,000.
So that's a down payment on a house. And then the additional $5,000?
Additional $5,000.
Okay. Imagine what you could do with an additional $5,000 saved. There are some people in this world that would like to get a really fancy purse. Might begin with Louis. What would you do with the extra money?
I would buy a new set of golf clubs and maybe go on a weekend trip with the boys, honestly.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
There's another one out there, the roundup payment. Okay.
So let's say making an extra payment a year or an extra, you know, or making the biweekly payments is a little bit too much.
Okay.
Because for some people it is.
Yeah.
Let's just say you round the payment up and throw an extra $50 a month towards your mortgage payment. What you would do is you would actually pay the house off in 27 and a half years, so 2.5 years faster, and you would still save an extra $33,000 in interest by just throwing an extra $50 and rounding your payment up by $50 a month.
In my family, we like to order pizza, you know, probably like once every other week. And the last time we ordered pizza, it was $48. So if we chose to forego the pizza, which could probably improve our diet a little bit, and throw that extra money toward our principal on our mortgage balance, oh, okay. So we could save money and probably lose a little weight. That's cool. All right. So let's say, for instance, if you were to do all three, if you round up your payment once a month and you make 2 payments a month and you make that extra payment once a year, what would that look like?
I mean, if you did all three, you're really going to be kind of setting fire to your interest payments here. So you would pay your house off in 17 years and 8 months versus 30, and you would save right around $149,000 in interest by doing that. That's a lot of money.
Boom diggity it is. So 17 years and 8 months, your mortgage would be paid off.
Right.
Okay. So I guess when I look at it from a layman's perspective and a realtor, you know what? Yeah, right now the interest rates aren't super attractive. Most people are basing their perspective of interest rates, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're basing their perspective of interest rates on, you know, the COVID era where we saw unrealistic. I call it the unicorn of real estate, and that being unrealistic interest rates of 2.75, 3.25. I mean, if you have that, that's wonderful. But I guess my cautionary tale is don't let today's interest rates keep you from getting into a position of home ownership, because if you utilize some of these mortgage hacks, Matt was sharing with me earlier before we started taping that if you use these mortgage hacks, there's some kind of reference you made to what the perceived or actual interest rate could be over the years.
Correct. Yeah. So the effective interest rate is what she's referring to. And what that does is, you know, so the 6.5% that we're using for the example here, you only pay 6.5% interest rate if you make the minimum payment every month for 30 years. Now, if you pay the house off any faster than 30 years, you know, with the accelerated payments that we gave here, just throwing in a little bit extra here and there, what it does is it actually lessens the amount of interest that you're paying on the loan. So, you know, making one extra payment a year, that could take your 6.5% down to a 5.5 or a 5% interest rate.
Wow.
I mean, it's like I said, it really lessens not only the amount of interest that you pay, but also the interest rate. So it kind of brings you back down into, you know, where we were before, depending on how fast you do.
So these are just a couple mortgage hacks that we wanted to share with you today. And if you have any other questions for Matt, myself, feel free to give us a buzz. We'll put our contact information in the comments below. Hey, before we sign off here, there was one extra thing that Matt wanted to share, which I think is really, really important. So from a real estate perspective, the average homeowner stays in a home about 9 years these days. So if you're doing any of these mortgage hacks and you're not going to be in your home to realize the full savings of staying in the house 17 years or 24 years or 26 years, Matt had a very, very valid point, and I think we want to make sure we include it.
Yeah, I agree. So, like Christine said, if you, let's say you end up selling, you do one of these hacks, you make an extra payment a year, you make the biweekly payments, whatever the case may be, and you decide to sell your house in 10 years. You, in a sense, put that money into a savings account because you're going to owe that much less on your mortgage when it's time to sell your house, and you're going to get all that money back when you do. So, like I said, you're kind of putting that money into a savings account, and that you're going to get back down the road when you do decide to sell the house, if you do.
And that kind of plays into, as realtors, many people are so focused on what it is that their house is going to sell for. So that's great. And it's a wonderful question. But I think more importantly is what's the equity pull that you're going to have. After all of the costs are done, what kind of equity are you going to be able to pull out of your existing home when you sell it? And on average, it's like 9 years. So if you're paying down the actual principal on the house, on the home loan, you stand to improve your equity position when you sell your house. So great additional point.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, just think of it as, if you go to sell your house, if you make an extra payment a year after 10 years, you could owe $25,000 to $30,000 less on the mortgage at that point, which is going to give you an extra $25,000 to $30,000 back to you when you sell the house.
Moving into the next house.
Exactly. So it's a great way.